Greetings everyone, and welcome to the 6th update in my reinvestigation of the cold case murder of John Doughtry. My name is Adrian Miller, and today I'm going to shake things up a bit for this update. Previously, I've been more or less playing interviews for you in full, while providing commentary as well as any and all information I've turned up on my own investigation. Originally, this update was going to follow the standard format of before. I was even ready to dive headfirst into today's subject, which happens to be the second interrogation of John's boyfriend, Nathan Ashford. However, the more I looked at this interrogation, the more I realized that this update calls for a different approach to it. And here's why. Between the length of this interrogation, which clocks in at just under 3 hours, and Nathan's mental state, which seems to have deteriorated further from his prior interrogation, it quickly became apparent that I would have difficulties handling this on my own. So I reached out to someone you've heard from previously to help me out, because she may have more knowledge about Nathan and his anxiety than I do. Thank you so much for the help on this, Chloe.
No problem, Adrian.
So, I assume you've listened to the tape before talking to me, yeah?
Yes. Well, I listened to the digital copy you sent me beforehand, yes.
So, you see why I had to reach out to you on this one.
Oh yeah. Leave it to Nathan to confuse the fuck out of everyone while neck deep in a constant state of anxiety.
I'm assuming this is normal for him.
Normal?
What I mean is this the way that he usually acts?
Oh, well, yes and no. When it comes to Nathan in the middle of an anxiety attack, this is normal. Now, does he always allow his anxiety to get the best of him like this? Absolutely not. Still, this time in his life has left him in a never-ending state of crippling anxiety.
How long did that last for him?
Honestly, years.
Really?
Of course! Try losing the love of your life, being the prime suspect in said murder, all while suffering from crippling anxiety that's amplified by the first 2 points I mentioned. That's enough to fuck you up for a while, am I right?
Right. Yeah, you do have a point there. That voice you heard was Chloe Lynn, Nathan Ashford's best friend, and one of the last people to see John alive 5 years ago. I had spoken with her once back in the update number 4, and she had some incredible insight into who Nathan was as a person. This is why I reached out to her for help discussing this interrogation. But that's not the only reason why I reached out to her. Now, if I'm being completely honest, the second interrogation really baffled me the first time I listened to it. With the insight Chloe gave us back in update number 4, I figured she could use what she knows, or what she's experienced with Nathan, to try and help build a better understanding of what was going on at that time. While discussing what we thought about the interrogation, our conversation covered many different moments that I felt stood out to the both of us. As I was reviewing the recording, however, I realized that there was more to this conversation than I had originally thought. There were debates, discussion, clarification, and some real talk at the end that wouldn't have been possible if I had tried to look at this tape on my own. And so I decided to take a different approach for today, which is what I meant about shaking things up earlier. Here's how the update will play out. There are a series of key moments that stood out to the both of us. I will play the clip from the actual interrogation first, then follow up with the clip where Chloe and I discuss what stood out to us from that part of the interrogation. Think of it like this. We have myself, who knows nothing about Nathan as a person aside from what I've heard in the tapes and read from the police notes. And you have Chloe, who has known Nathan personally for over a decade, but hasn't heard any of the audio tapes of the investigation until now. What better people to talk about this interrogation than us, right? Now, to set the scene for this interrogation. At this point in the investigation, aside from Nathan's inconsistent stories and the offhand comments Sturgis made about John being choked to death, the detectives don't have much on any of their suspects. So it seems that they went back to their first suspect in an attempt to try and obtain more information. But, as luck would have it, their time with Nathan didn't go the way they had hoped. In the recordings, the detectives were really digging into some deep topics this time around, and Nathan sounded completely drained throughout it. By the way he spoke, it was obvious that he hadn't slept since the last time they had brought him in. Anthony and Michelle's notes also noted how he seemed to have lost even more weight since their last talk, and things just get worse for him as the interrogation carried on. Now, before we get started, I do need to put a disclaimer here. Some of the content in this interrogation can be brutal, to say the least. There are in-depth discussions of a man's sex life, as well as accusations of possible sexual assault, which at one point is talked about in full by the detectives. I understand that there are some listeners who wouldn't be able to handle some of this type of content. For that reason, I will most certainly warn you when specific topics arise. But I also felt wrong cutting this information out of the update because they are very important not only to the investigation as a whole, but also to one of the conversations that Chloe and I had about this interrogation. Once again, I will warn everybody when certain topics are about to be discussed, but listeners' discretion is advised. To start, I will play a clip that comes early on in the investigation. Here, Detective Thorne is questioning Nathan about his relationship with John.
So how would you describe your relationship with John?
It was good.
Good? It was good?
Yeah.
Did he make you happy?
Yeah, he really did. He always kept me smiling.
And did you make him happy?
Yeah, and I hope so. I tried my best for him.
You tried your best.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be good enough? You said you tried your best, right?
Yeah, I did. Sometimes I would think that because I'm so anxious all the time that it would bother him or that it would make him frustrated. Not happy.
Did he ever say you didn't make him happy?
No.
Then why would you think that?
Oh, because I do. As much as I try not to, I always do. I'm sure this makes no sense to you two. I'm sorry.
While there aren't any inconsistencies here, this clip truly shows how emotionally drained Nathan sounds at this point. I mean, I don't blame him. I can't even begin to explain how exhausting it must be being pulled back in for questioning, especially after having a massive anxiety attack last time. One of the first topics that Chloe and I discussed was my initial impression of Nathan in this interrogation. Here's what we discussed. How much of a toll did this whole investigation take on Nathan?
Oh, shit got extremely bad for him during this time, that's for sure. Hell, listening to this interview took me back to that time.
How bad?
Very, very bad.
In what ways?
Really, Adrian? We've been over this already. Between suffering from crippling anxiety, losing the love of your life, and being the prime suspect in their murder, you're going to be completely drained, Adrian.
Right. Yeah, I don't doubt it was bad for him. What I meant was that I just didn't know how bad it was given his mental state.
Oh. Right. Yeah. It was one of the worst times for him mentally.
If you can't already tell, when it comes to Nathan, Chloe's extremely protective of him. And believe it or not, this is one of the tamer moments from our conversation. She definitely cares about him. That much is certain. The next point of discussion revolves around the detectives questioning Nathan about his knowing of John's previous relationships. Now, this line of questioning actually happens twice, so I'm going to play both of them back to back.
Did you know any of John's exes?
No, not really.
Did you know of any of them at least?
Sturgis, maybe. That's about it.
So John didn't tell you about any of the other exes he's had?
No, ma'am. Not at all.
Alright, Nathan, I'm going to ask you again. Did you know any of John's exes?
Yes.
Who?
William Sturgis.
Did you know him well?
Really, I just knew who he was. That's all.
Did you know about any other exes?
Yes.
Who?
Jeremy. Jeremy Leinsworth.
Why didn't you tell us this when we asked earlier?
I couldn't remember his name.
What caused you to remember?
I don't know. His name popped into my head while you two were out of the room, I guess.
Did you personally know him?
No.
How did you find out about him?
I think it was Andy. Yeah, Andy who said his name. Something like that. I don't remember.
Chloe and I had a lengthy debate about this short line of questioning. While yes, we agreed that the wording know and know of would confuse anyone who was being interrogated, the thing that stuck with me was the mention of other exes. Specifically, how Nathan doesn't remember things, or rather misremembers information. I guess that's just one of the things that's really had me conflicted about Nathan. I mean, yeah, he's consistent at points, but then there's this trend of Nathan misremembering stories or suddenly remembering things that he didn't before. What's the deal with that?
That's just how he is, Adrian. He's never had the best of memories, but he's always tried his hardest to remember. His brain just never stops thinking. He's constantly trying to pull as much information as he can remember, and when he can't remember, that process speeds up more and more, which also has quite an effect on his mental state as well. That's why, for example, when he's talking to the detectives, since he's anxious about how they're perceiving him, he doesn't remember much. However, when he's had some time to himself, he can remember things just like that.
Wait, hold on. I thought being alone was bad for people with anxiety.
It depends on the person, honestly. Some can't be around people without having an attack. Others have one when they're left alone with their thoughts. It's honestly a case-by-case basis.
Right. But regardless, do you see why he looks bad for someone who has no knowledge of anxiety or how it works?
I know. It doesn't look good for him. It's something he's struggled with for years, honestly.
Years?
Yeah. People who don't understand him have these wild misconceptions of who he is. And it's like, I don't blame them, because until I met Nathan, I was the same way. But it doesn't make it any more frustrating, you know?
I'll be the first to admit my ignorance on this whole anxiety thing. I don't suffer from it, and I don't have any friends or family that suffer from it. It's a foreign concept to me. Well, okay. I know what it is theoretically, but actually dealing with it is a foreign concept to me. And yet when Chloe talks about it, it's like second nature to her. She has this knowledge that I don't have, and maybe that's what's missing. Maybe, if I understood how Nathan's anxiety works, I would understand him. Or maybe he is hiding something. This leads me to the most critical point of the discussion between Chloe and I. And it centers around a very long series of questions about, Nathan and John's sex life. Or at least it started that way before devolving into something way worse. This line of questioning was an incredible critical point of debate between the two of us, and you'll hear why in just a moment. Now, remember that warning I gave at the beginning? Well, that warning was particularly due to this next line of questioning. What starts as a simple question turns into a story that is told 2 different times in this interrogation. This question wasn't even asked of Nathan during the initial line of questioning, so please be advised. Anyway, this segment picks up from Detective Thorne's line of questioning, and similar to before, this particular topic comes up a total of 3 times, all of which you will hear in consecutive order.
Alright, Nathan. No matter how awkward it gets, I want you to answer truthfully to the next set of questions that we got for you, okay?
Okay.
Alright. So, how often did you and John have sex?
What? What does that have to do with anything?
Just trust me on this, okay, Nathan? How often did you and John have sex? Well, what's the answer?
3 times a day. Week. Week, I meant week. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Nathan. Was the sex consensual?
Of course it was. Why wouldn't it be?
Alright, now, did you two partake
Detective, why wouldn't it be?
I don't know, Nathan. Why wouldn't it be?
Anthony, please.
I have no idea why.
So it was consensual?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay. Anyway, so did any of you partake in extreme behaviors?
Extreme?
Yeah, extreme.
What do you mean by extreme behaviors?
I don't know, Nathan. Anything people would consider crazy or intense or possibly kinky.
No, nothing out of the ordinary.
Are you certain about that?
Yes, I am.
Alright, so I heard from Janine while she was in here that you had something to say while we were gone?
Yes, I did.
Okay then, Nathan, the floor is yours.
Well, I remembered a couple of times in bed where John and I tried something.
You and John tried something?
Yeah.
Well, what was it?
Well, there was a couple of times where we tried,
If it's hard for you to talk about, Nathan, you can take your time, okay?
We tried being tied up. And we tried it on me first, and it wasn't comfortable for me. It's just, so we tried it on him.
Did he enjoy this at all?
No, not at all.
Why was that, Nathan?
Because it reminded him of something that happened with his ex.
Which ex is he referring to?
William Sturgis.
Oh? And what was this something that happened between John and William?
He said,
Nathan, it's okay. You can tell us.
Okay, he was choked by William one time to the point of almost passing out, and he said the situation scared him, and that what we were trying was reminding him of that.
And did you stop?
Of course I did. Why wouldn't I stop?
Maybe because you were still enjoying it.
No. He said I would never enjoy hurting someone.
Well, maybe sometimes in the heat of the moment you do something irrational.
What? No, I just said that I would never enjoy doing that.
You say that now, but what about when you're in the heat of the moment of something?
I said I would never enjoy doing that. I'm sorry, but please just stop, okay?
Anthony, maybe we should take a few minutes and regroup.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Nathan, are you calmed down?
Mm-hmm.
We still have a few questions we need answering before we let you go, okay?
Okay.
Alright. Why did that situation of being tied up remind him of being choked by an ex?
Because I don't remember. I think it was a sensation that felt similar to him.
Did John ever explain how he was choked?
I don't remember. Hands, rope, some other object.
Are you positive you don't remember?
I might. It might have been rope. It's the only thing that makes sense to me at this point. But I don't remember him saying it was rope. It was maybe it was his hands.
Aside from those two options, would it be anything else?
No, just the two.
And this was the only incident that occurred?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Of course I don't know. I never asked him. Whatever happened between them was none of my business.
Even though he was your boyfriend, you never asked?
Yeah, I respected John. We didn't want to talk about it. I never forced it. Although I wish I knew now. I'm so sorry.
Wow. This part was incredibly unsettling for me to listen to. The story about John getting choked by William and his subsequent trigger happening while trying something in bed with Nathan just... Man, that's horrible. And I felt horrible listening to that clip. And so did Chloe. However, she seemed to have yet another memory about that very situation.
See, this just made me so frustrated and upset, because the whole being tied up thing wasn't even what set John off in the first place.
Wait, what was that?
Yeah, I remember when Nathan first came to me when that happened, and the rope and being tied up had nothing to do with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was related to Nathan accidentally pushing down on John's neck too hard.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm pretty sure I am. Basically, John was sitting upwards as he was tied up, and mind you, by tied up, he means having his hands tied above his head and not to the bed itself. After Nathan was done, he went to push John down by his collarbone. Well, I guess Nathan accidentally pushed down a little too hard, and it freaked John the fuck out, to which Nathan was showering apologies for the next day and a half. And apparently, according to Nathan, John told him that Sturgis was the one who fucking choked him with his bare hands until he almost passed out.
And you're sure about that?
I am 100% sure about this, Adrian. I still remember that conversation clear as day.
I want that to sink in for a moment. Chloe remembers Nathan telling her that John was choked by William Sturgis with his bare hands. Let me say that again. Nathan said that John told him that he was choked by William Sturgis with his bare hands. This could mean one of two things for this case. Either Nathan Ashford is telling the truth, and we have the victim telling Nathan before his death that he was nearly choked to death before by his ex-boyfriend William Sturgis, just to be found dead via asphyxiation. Or Nathan is lying and he's trying to pin his guilt to someone innocent like William Sturgis. This was what Chloe had to say about my conflict.
You know, Adrian, I have to commend you. Here you are weighing Nathan's guilt or innocence, and your concerns make sense to me. That's why I said when we first started talking that this interrogation looks very bad for him. He seems unreliable, and that he's hiding something. But at the same time, you've also admitted you don't know much about anything when it comes to anxiety. And it makes sense. You don't deal with it. No one you love deals with it. But I gotta give you credit. You let me explain it to you. And even if you don't fully get it, you're trying your best to understand. And that is worlds better than most people, man.
Before talking to Chloe, I would have leaned more towards Nathan being a liar trying to pin his guilt elsewhere. but after talking to her, I'm not so sure. Now, yes, I still have my doubts about Nathan's innocence, but hearing Chloe's firsthand accounts of the tolls that Nathan's anxiety has put him through, as well as that story she told about John being choked by William Sturgis, I'm a lot more conflicted. There is a chance that he's innocent and that he's just the most unfortunate, misunderstood man in the world. But there's also a chance that he's guilty and that he's this cold-blooded murderer who's anxious about getting caught for killing John Doughtry. A man who he trusted his whole heart to. I wish I had a solid opinion about this, but the more I think about it, the more I weigh the options, the more conflicted I become about it all. However, it looks like I wasn't the only one who was conflicted about this. The detectives seemed to be as well because they weren't done looking at William Sturgis, their second suspect of the case. In fact, they brought him in for another interrogation as well, all of which will be covered in update number 7. Until next time, this has been Adrian Miller signing off. Thank you for listening.
And episode 6 can be crossed off your list of things to do today. As always, I am Greg here from TSG, and I'm here with your credits. Episode 6, Constant State of Anxiety, was written by myself with editing help from Kita Creations and Ashley J. Our vocal talent is as follows. As always, that is Andrea Dame from the Lair Project as the voice of Adrian Miller. That's Brianna Northway, aka May, as the voice of Detective Michelle North. That is myself, Greg Patrone, as the voice of Detective Anthony Thorne. Chloe Lynn is voiced by the lovely Miranda Dunneke. Sam Gopperton is the voice of Nathan Ashford. And Ashley J is the voice of Janine Harper. Logo design was done by Kari as well as Lisa. Thank you guys so much for the amazing logos. The visuals, as always, were done by His Westerness Art. You can check him out at facebook.com/hiswesternessart. Audio was recorded by myself with post-production help done by HoloGhost. Thank you once more, HoloGhost, for the incredible work. You have worked your ass off again and again, and I'm always thankful for the hard work that you put into this project, so thank you once more. Our intro music is In Moments from Granger. You can check them out at grangertheband.bandcamp.com. And our outro music is Shatter from Sam Quick. You can check out his music as well as this brand new record, The Way Forward, at samquick.bandcamp.com. And finally, Lost in Cold is a TSG production. It was created by myself with help from incredibly talented people that were all listed throughout the credits, as well as all the people that worked on prior episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we hope you guys come back for next week's episode, which is titled The Real William Sturgis. Until then, we'll catch you guys next week.